Steve and I met through work. I applied for a job that reported to him, and he called me and asked me to come to the interviews. The first time we ever met, it was actually interviewing for a job.
We didn't know each other at all. And so I knew the first thing that I needed to do was to earn his trust. Because if we were going to work together and be successful in the things that we're charged with accomplishing, that we needed to have a very solid relationship. So that's kind of where I began, is just making sure that what I said, that I walked the talk, and that Terry would observe that.
I had this idea that you use other people to progress your career, and again, by watching Steve, I learned right away that that not only wasn't true, he wouldn't stand for it either. He's not one to use other people for his own means.
As our relationship grew and that trust grew deeper and deeper, you know, I was sharing more and more of my faith and my journey with Terry, and said, hey, you know, we have a really cool place, my wife and I, that we go on Sundays. If you're interested, I would love for you and Caroline, who's Terry's wife, to just come and check us out. And
so we came in, and it was very awe-inspiring. I mean, there's traffic cops outside, and you know, parking forever, and came in. Steve was right there.
A few days later, I was at Terry's desk, and I could see the notes that he had taken during Pastor Mark's sermon, and he was studying them. I saw some lights go on.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah. As Terry got more and more exposed to the church and the Word of God, I could see a transformation taking place right in front of my eyes. That's a really cool thing to experience with somebody.
For me, the decision to follow Jesus wasn't like that bolt of lightning. It was never a defining moment, something that just said, this is what to do. It was more me reflecting on all those smaller events and making a bigger picture for myself. And believe me, I understand it wasn't me, but I do have a time, though, when I knew that I needed to proclaim, you know, my faith publicly in the baptism, right? They talk about it all the time. Fast forward to a sermon Mark was given. He was given a sermon, but all of a sudden he just goes into this deal about the baptism, and if you're thinking about it, but you're concerned because you don't think you're ready or not, you know, pray on it. You know, ask God what He wants you to do. And Steve had given me that advice 100 times, you know, maybe not 100, but he gave it to me a few anyways. So I talked to Steve about it shortly thereafter, and asked him if he would still baptize me, and he thought about it for at least a second and said yes. For that week prior to the baptism, it was very up and down for me, very tumultuous, trying to, you know, figure out if I really was supposed to do this.
One of the concerns that Terry had was, you know, Steve, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. And I think I answered by saying, yeah, you're right.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, that's not what it's about.
I was thinking to myself, you know, how's the family going to interpret this? And sometimes it was a negative, you know, again, for the hypocrisy, because they know me at home. They know me in my private life, what I do, what I say, how I act.
I remember one of the questions that I asked Terry's wife during that lunch discussion. I said, you know, you're about as close to this guy as anybody. Is he the same man today that he was 5 years ago? She said, absolutely not. So Terry was struggling, I think, a little bit about seeing the changes inside of him that we were seeing on the outside.
When I came up, I didn't have any expectation. However, I did have a very strong sense of calm. I just felt like it was right. What I would say to someone who's contemplating baptism, I would tell them to do what I did, and that is pray on it and ask, and God will tell you.